All right. Enough.
What are you talking, guys, about? I just
let's
heard like tapeworm and handjo.
Let's
always sunny in Philadelphia.
let's get on track here.
It is time.
But I just learned to play Evelyn.
So, is everyone good? Is everyone good advancement wise?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm gonna go get some Thin Mints. I'd have frozen for like 6 months.
You can just start recording.
I already have. Has everyone? Does everyone
grimly
remember where we left off?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm tired.
In the camp.
Right. Does anybody need a refresher, or are you all good?
I'm good.
I need to.
I think you should do a little refresh.
All right. Last time on the episode of If Looks Could Kill, you all fought a fish that Pone did his absolute best to become the inside stuffing for. And despite the fact that Pone was thrown on death's door due to exploding out every orifice he has with blood.
I helped.
Yes. You all survived, and after the boat completely collapsed and fell apart, all of you helped drag the chest full of money that you'll hopefully be paid out of, along with numerous other supplies to camp. And we have now arrived in camp after you trudged through the mist for about an hour of just ungodly nonsense. And this place seems like it really sucks.
Yeah,
all right.
Got a dwarf and a fugly elf at it.
So, let's get moving. So, you all walk into camp, and this place is simply called The Camp. It doesn't have any special or fun, interesting names.
I think that's very charming.
The camp is centered on a small isthmus between the Verfafluss and the Graussee lakes, or rivers. You can see in the distance, we talked about that you can kind of see an ominous stone circle a little ways past the camp and up a hill. It's a little bit isolated, but it's kind of on the grounds. You can tell that they're building around. So it's close enough, and there's something there's something pretty unpleasant about it. It looks fairly ominous and older than any of you by far. However, the camp is in fairly good working condition as far as compared to what you've seen so far. If any of you want to try and get more details about the camp, after I finish kind of a cursory description, now would be a good time to take a perception check. But
I want to make a perception check.
Cool, you can roll it while I'm talking. In any event, as you walk in, you do see the rest of the Strigani all working around their various wagons and tents. You do notice there is a fairly opulent tent just a little bit north of you guys that has the blue and yellow colors of Ubersreich on it, and has the heraldry of the Jungfreuds, which are one of the noble merchant families from Ubersreich. There's also a very nice opulent wagon straight across you guys in the camp, and off to the left is a bit of a platform with a camp next to it, and standing on top of the wooden platform is a fairly not super happy looking dwarf. He is puffing on a pipe at the moment, and he seems to be watching you all as you approach in. I will say the mist that you've been walking through to get up to the camp, it hangs very heavily here. It has a very deep brownish hue to it, and all of you feel wet, soaked down to your bones, and you just feel heavy and tired. There is nothing pleasant or joyous about this place. It's kind of like the way the British tend to talk about England.
Darling, that fog looks like when the last time ate those beans I made. But anyway, have you seen the fellow dwarf over there? And also, I would really like to do that perception check, but I don't remember what I'm rolling.
Okay, so first, Gojiro, when you roll checks, make sure to change your name in the bottom. In the bottom of the chat, make sure you change your name to as your character. Because it's not Goji making a perception check, it's Meezer making a one. In any event, so what you do whenever you want to make a check is you open up your character sheet, which you can't open it up as a separate tab by clicking the icon in the top left when you go to the character sheet portion. And then you would just scroll down to where it says perception, and then you click on the big number to the right. And if I have any modifiers for you, I will tell them to you. Sometimes I'll keep them to myself. Most of the time I'll tell you.
No modifier for me though, right?
Yeah. None that I'm willing to share. Alright, none of you...
This is outrageous!
You're so tired from walking, and everything has just been such a colossal pain up to this point. You're exhausted, you've been carrying heavy supplies and materials, you all nearly drowned and fought with a really angry giant fish that was just kind of absurd, the whole experience. So none of you are able to perceive anything beyond just the absolute basic details, because you're just struggling to keep your eyes open.
What was the
Guys, could
name
it be he modified us to like impossible chat?
What was the name of the man who was leading us here?
So y'all are being led by Rutger Rutger.
I approve. I want to approach Rooter.
Okay.
I look at him with a almost seemingly dead kind of looking face from just being so weary, and all I mutter is bed.
Yeah, he will awkwardly but give you a camaraderie pat on the shoulder and said, just a moment. Raiko, before any of you have the chance to talk to him, quickly guides his grandmother to one of the nicest looking of the Stragani tents, which is not to say it's a nice tent, but compared to the other ones, it's nicer. And he's kind of, he nods to the five of you before he leads her off and helps put her to bed. And Rooter enters the camp, and you can tell that everything that might have been providing him whatever upbeat hope he had up until this moment seems to drain out of him as he approaches the dwarf. And he says, Thulgrim, I say there, Thulgrim! And a older dwarf with long black hair and a wide bristly beard looks down at the six of you. He has filthy overalls and he has a large brown pipe that he's smoking on. And the moment he sees Rooter among you, his face seems to darken like a thunderstorm. And all the Stragani that are with you guys quickly dissipate to go about their work as Rooter gestures for all of you to follow him to speak with the dwarf. He clambers down from his perch and waddles over. He takes the pipe from his teeth and he burps a disgusting black tarry cloud of smoke directly in Rooter's face and says, "Back so soon, manling." Rooter will cough and wave his hand in front of his face and says, "Well, yes, you see, we had a bit of a mishap on the river. These kind people proved very useful in the event. I was hoping we could sort them out with a little compensation. Further, I have hired them to do some of the tasks around the camp. You know the ones, the matters the Stragani are, well, reluctant to do." You do see that he reaches inside of his jerkin for a moment and brings out a large brass key and hands it to the dwarf, and he says, "Perhaps you could take the chest to Stiegler's caravan and sort out some silver for them?" Thorgrim will roll his eyes, and he will take the brass key, and Rooter will turn to the five of you and say, "He'll get you all sorted. If you must excuse me, I must retire to my camp to deal with some papers immediately." And Rutger will nod his farewells before departing to go rest in his camp. The dwarf turns and eyes the five of you, and he gestures for what he assumes to be the two strongest of you. He gestures to Meezer and... What's your dwarf's name again? I'm trying to get to the point where I memorize y'all's names. Grimly. He gestures to the two of you to pick up the pay chest, which is a large chest with 2 locks on it. He gestures to the two of you to pick it up and follow him. And he leads you.
Follow too.
And he leads you over to here.
Where's the halfling when you need him?
Listening intently.
It's like probably looking for things to steal.
Well, is
Not
there
readable, perhaps?
is there any kind of like not a mess hall, but like a kitchen, a kitchen tent, or anything like that?
There's nothing that I would. There is nothing deserving of a moderately appropriate name, such as kitchen. There are some fires around, and some of them seem to have various pots hanging over them. That being said, it seems like you should probably be following the dwarf. But for the moment, he doesn't say anything to any of you. He leads you towards the opulent caravan wagon, but he doesn't say anything. He's just sort of walking.
Do I see any like horses or anything like in these pens around?
There are horses in the pens that are for the most part used to just pull wagons. None of them are riding horses. They're all clearly trained and designed for wagon pulling, especially by the Strigani.
Alright.
As you are all approaching the wagon up ahead, you do see a figure leave and make a very quick and just make a very brief exit. Like they kind of open the door, close it, immediately run down the steps and run outside the camp.
And does a backflip.
No backflip.
5 out of 10.
And so if nobody cares about that, we can move on to Thorgrim knocking on the door.
I screeched, who was that?
So if any of you want to try and get a better look at him, he's moving quickly enough, and due to all the mist, it's difficult to see who it is. You will need to take a perception check to see him.
I'm willing to make a perception check. Kaboom!
Okay, it's a perception check at -20.
-20.
That means I have like an 8%.
Critical success! What does my Susan Elf eyes see?
Yeah, and because it's a sight check, you actually have a very good chance of seeing it. So I will whisper to what you see. And if you want, you can share it with your party, but you don't have to.
Alright. Sotek?
Oh,
Yeah.
I will repeat that I also critically succeed in my pursuit of viewing this burglar in the night.
Is your head even above the mist?
It's tall enough.
Was that
Is your head even out of your butt?
was that with a -20 Italian?
No.
Yeah, I thought so.
Dirty Wazuk.
I suspected as much.
A fumbling failure.
Shotek, where are you whispering
That was,
to me?
that was still pretty.
It'll be in roll 20. Just one sec.
Well, I would also get a -90 in my attempt, so I'm really not going to bother with the -110% chance
Because I got a great fumbling failure. As I kind of try to look over in that direction, I immediately get distracted by a rat. Oh, some good cookings, I see. Start chasing after a little bit.
You gotta move your character around the camp.
Scouring for that.
My character is so exhausted. that
I'll be the rat sound.
The only word he's waiting to hear is bed.
Walter, king of the rat.
This is absolutely unacceptable, the treatment in this camp.
Okay, so I've sent that to you. Alright.
Really?
Yeah, Sotek, is there like critical, like if we roll a 1 on anything, does it automatically succeed?
Okay, so the way this works is that whenever you get a doubles only matter for combat. Outside of combat, if you get a 1 through 5, it's generally a guaranteed success unless there's something crazy going on. And if you get a 96 through 100, it's a guaranteed fail. Sometimes there will be little bonuses thrown in for either the fails or the successes, depending on what's going on. All right. Anyway, so
because I already feel like I'm starting to bond with the team, maybe except the halfling, I think I'm gonna just share. I'm kidding. Halfling is my favorite. I'm just gonna be like, guys, have you seen that ugly-looking just walk out on us like that. I swear, I'm just gonna talk to whoever is in charge of this camp. And I'm not sure, but I think he had those disgusting nappy black hair. I mean, the hygiene standards here are just gross. Well, I think he looked like a thief to me. Darling, have you seen him?
And my dwarf, having horribly failed his perception check, shakes his head and grumbles.
Of course.
Fulgrim sort of like glares back at Susan for a moment before, and he just like harumps unpleasantly before climbing the steps of the wagon, and he knocks quite loudly on the door.
I would like to interrupt him and be like, "Excuse me, Mr. Dwarf, can I perform a charm check and ask who the hell was that?"
You can try.
Yeah, that's probably gonna fail, but
Might as well
whatever. Yeah.
Critical success.
Excuse me, Mr. Dwarf.
Do I put any modifier?
No, you don't get a modifier for this.
Never mind.
As you, that's random. Okay. As you try to speak with him, he turns and he glares back at you and he just says, "It's none of my business and it's none of yours."
Is there a way that I could try and speak to the dwarf in Kazalid to gain his trust and perhaps get some information?
Yeah, I mean, you could talk to him in Kazalid. That won't necessarily make him like you any more or less.
Yeah, okay, got it.
All right, so he's banged on the door at this point, and all of you hear the sound of someone angrily approaching the door, and it's thrown open, and you see a tall woman standing there. Contrary to everyone else in this camp, she's actually wearing very finely tailored trousers and a jerkin. She has very nice, lightly oiled golden curls, and everything about her is very vibrant, except for the fact that her frown is pretty soul-scarringly angry looking. She is an epitome of resting bitch face. Like, she just looks done with all of your shit before you've even said anything. And she looks down at the dwarf and she says, "I was hoping to get some sleep. Whatever it is you want, can it not wait until morning?" And the dwarf, Fulgrim, just kind of seems to ignore her obvious disdain for him and simply says, "Boat came a cropper. These folks helped with salvage. Rooter wants them compensated. Well compensated if possible." She rolls her eyes with a theatrical sigh and says, "As if my esteemed partner hadn't already demonstrated his incompetence and profligacy. Dwarf, I already have a site rammed full of so-called assets that stubbornly fail to sweat for me. Bring that chest inside and set it on the floor, but I'll not authorize the spending of a single brass penny until I see some progress."
Can I is charm used on people?
Yes.
Okay, can I attempt to kind of charm the dwarf and kind of talk him down a little bit to kind of help out a little bit here?
It's not the
Fulgrim?
dwarf who's mad.
Oh, okay. I totally got that confused.
How dare you, Ryan? Not even let's-
You're kind of a little bit, so I'm kind of like
do you
piecing it all
remember
together.
that bitch from my spinning class? I swear that woman reminds me of her.
Oh no.
So somebody do a charm check.
Are we gonna just stand here?
I think Ryan was going to try and charm.
Yeah,
Or
go for
Walter
it.
Bobblefoot.
I'm the lady. My lady.
Somebody who has fellowships.
I actually I take it back. I don't charm.
All right.
I'm kind of
Well,
lost.
I'm gonna move forward then, and try to charm that really.
Gunda.
She's not, darling. I think her name was Karen. And she was such a bitch. She made me quit my spinning class.
Okay. Charm. Sotek. I'm doing it.
Okay, hold on.
Do I put any modifier?
No. So whenever you make something like a charm check,
Oh, guys, look at that.
just for the record, I will give modifiers based on what y'all say. So if you and what you do. So if you come up and you say something that would be charming to that person, or do something that would be charming to that person.
Okay, I haven't said anything to her yet, though.
Okay, how are you gonna try and charm her?
My lady, despite lack of sleep, you're looking so fine. Let me allow to say, but honestly, I think we have a little bit of misconception here. So I understand that you're partners with the man who led us here. Well, I think you and I could share a little bit of information about his truthful incompetence, if you will. If you're willing to have a girl-on-girl over tea moment later when you obviously rest.
Can I perform that check again now?
No, you keep the roll. It just modifies how well you did. All right. She kind of she looks at you, and you can tell now that you're close enough to really get a good look at her that her eyes are really red. So either she probably hasn't been sleeping very well lately. And she's clearly exhausted, but she'll kind of frown at you and say, "You'll have to forgive me, but I'm not too familiar with your kind." And she's like, "Perhaps we could speak later, but I would really prefer to be rid of you lot so I could just get to rest, at least for once." And she gestures for y'all to bring the chest inside and set it down on the floor.
Oh, Elvis.
How?
Like to approach her, and while
You're
looking
just
at her
shambling
with
and
his
dying.
zombie eyes, just says, "Let me rest. I will help you rest."
She's going to scowl at you, seeing many of the obvious raiments that suggest that you are not only an elf, but a wizard elf. And she will point to the camp, and she said, "There's plenty of mud for sleeping dogs to lie in. You can go out there."
I'm just gonna push my way in front of like everyone here and be like, "Oh my lady, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Please, of course, you must absolutely want to sleep. And as my mom always says, you never want to sleep on an empty stomach." And I'm gonna offer one of my young stir-pike steaks, and not touch her, but like definitely in like a comforting gesture, like kind of towards her, like, please take this and have a good rest, and maybe we could talk a little bit more about this once you've had a sleep or two, right?
She clearly is taken aback a bit by your very aggressive display of friendship. And she.
I think our team is not getting anywhere.
Have y'all taken the chest inside yet, or are you just standing there?
Yeah, well, Godie and I will take the chest.
Okay.
Yeah.
After you set it down, she takes the key from Thulgrim, and she looks at the four of you, or the five of you, and says, "Just." She's like, "Could you all just leave and come back later?"
Right away, yes, ma'am. How's about we talk right tomorrow, right, Mom?
She starts rubbing at her temples and says, "Yes, fine, tomorrow, fine. Just go."
Make sure you sleep. Right away. Can I do like a sleight of hand check does she have anything important on her that I would want to steal of sorts?
Steal that shit.
Does she have keys to this chest or anything like that?
She does have a key that you can see around her neck on a necklace.
Okay.
And she's holding the other key, which clearly these two keys are the keys that open up the pay chest that y'all have a fair amount of promised coin inside already.
And you need both of the keys?
Yes, you need both keys to open it.
Holy shit.
Do we want to try cooperating on that?
Let's cooperate.
Is that her tent behind her?
Yes. It's
okay.
Yeah, it's like a really nice wagon tent that like it's nice enough that it has a door in it.
I'll kind of like curtly bow and plod away while taking note of where the tent is.
Okay. She tapping her foot impatiently. She's waiting for the five of you to leave.
Why?
Let's just go.
Or Elvis, without moving very much, turns his head to the dwarf and says,
"Good luck with that."
Bed.
The Johanna, which is her name, Johanna Stiegler, she steps back into her wagon and slams the door shut behind the lot of you. She's tired. Fulgrim will turn to you, and Ulrivus, he'll look at you, and his face turns kind of a funny tint of red for a moment, and his beard almost seems to be bristling, and he said, "Leave it to that Ungi idiot to bring a Wazak like you into this camp. If you want a sleep elf, I'm more than happy to introduce you to my hammer."
How dare he?
Or Elvis, not shaken by the comment or anything, almost as if it goes unnoticed as to just how angry this man is with him. He says, "Where's the rest of the tent?"
I approach to push the rude elf away to try to mitigate that goddamn useless midget, which I obviously thought. I didn't say that.
Well, apologies again, Master Dwarf. We really had an horrible and incredibly tiring encounter, and I must apologize for the lot of us. Just if we could find just a little space to sleep, that would be very generous of you.
Sure.
The dwarf is
I'm batting my eyelashes.
the dwarf is drawn to the awareness of your existence again, and he doesn't seem terribly more excited than he was with the high elf. And he just sort of bluntly points towards the Strigani and says, "Go there." And then he angrily stomps off towards his personal tent.
Oh, you just wait, you bearded rodent. I'm gonna steal everything you hold dear.
Or are you talking about these ones, or
Any of them. Any of the Strigani.
Darling!
these two are my tents. I approached to Orvis bed.
The Strigani, the ones that you traveled with have already intermingled back among their fellows, and word has spread pretty quickly about you guys. And you can even see Raiko speaking to a few of them, and all of you are able to find decent lodging in one of the tents. It's not anything super fancy, but it's better than sleeping in the mud or on some cold hard rock. And all of you, when you don't have to go to sleep right now. You can do some other stuff if you'd like, but if you want, your character can go ahead and go to bed.
Okay. Could I ask Raiko if he has any additional equipment or armor or anything of the sort in the camp here?
Sure. He'll sit as you approach and nods to you and say, "Master Dwarf."
You cut out there for a moment.
Okay. He nods to you and says, "What can I help you with, Master Dwarf?"
I would like to ask him if he has any spare equipment, weapons, anything that could help us in our journey and our task of serving the camp.
Ask him as your character. God damn it, Nick.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start doing that. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know, just to get in that mindset.
Don't describe to me what you're doing. Just do it. Anyway.
What's his name again? Raiko?
Raiko.
Raiko.
Anyway, Raiko will he'll kind of wince and say, "Unfortunately, we're not that well armed. Nothing we can spare anyway. That being said, the town of Graussee isn't terribly far from here if you wanted to go over there, but it's a farming community with barely a few hundred folk. I doubt they have anything you'd be looking for. I don't even think they have a blacksmith."
Sotek, who's that? That's the grandma in the green robe, right?
No, she's inside one of the tents.
So who's that in the green robe?
Oh, no, that is her. You are correct, but I'm going to put her inside one of the tents.
Please.
Alright, I would like to go and check on her, so I'm gonna put my snotty nose and peek into the tent.
Okay. She seems... she nods and she goes, yes! Welcome.
What was her name?
This is Vadama.
Vadama. My dear Vadama, I'm so glad to see that you're safe. How are you feeling, my dear?
She will in that typical weird shaky way that old people move when they're just when age is just catching up with them. She takes one of your hands in hers and pats it. She says, I'm good. Thank you for saving me in that terrible river accident. I've never been particularly gifted with swimming.
You cut out there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why my connection is so rough today. Let me check something real quick.
It's like oftentimes the last word.
Okay, I'll just try holding down the button longer than I think. Yeah, I'll just try holding down the button longer than I think I need to. That's probably what it is. So, she nods and she goes, "Oh yes, thank you. I'm doing much better now that I've had a chance to dry off. I've never been quite good at swimming."
Well, the pleasure is mine. Do you know any of those people here? Like this rude dwarf or that horribly, obnoxiously unpleasant woman over there in that fancy tent?
She just sort of nods her head, somewhat, and just says something. She basically sort of looks at you with a very far away look and just says, "The ancestors tell me that the beast is listening. It's watching. You will be the ones to stop the beast." And she just sort of keeps muttering vague phrases about the beast while nodding her head and patting your hand, and she kind of starts to drift off a little bit.
Could I? I'm torn between performing charm or intuition tests. Like if my intuition can tell me anything.
You can try.
Or charm to try to, bring her back to present and squeeze some more information out of her.
You could try whatever you may like.
Alright, let's try to charm the dear old lady. And what I'm gonna say,
Vadoma, please, stay with me. I'm really concerned about that beast or that monster that you keep mentioning, and my primary concern is to keep my husband safe. And I was hoping that maybe you could elaborate now. It's just you and I here. Fuck you.
Her eyes seem to come back into full, like, a moment of alertness when she hears you mention the beast, and she grabs your hand somewhat frightfully and nods and says, "Yes, the beast, it's near. It's waiting in the marshes. It has to be waiting there, waiting for an opportunity."
Marshes? Does it happen to wait on our way to the farming community that the captain mentioned?
She slowly blinks, and you can tell she's thinking for a moment. She says, "No, it could be anywhere, but the marshes are across the WFRPG, across the river."
Well then, my dear, what about that circle of stones? Have you noticed that?
At this, she shakes her head, and you can kind of tell that the day is starting to really catch up with her, because it seems like it's remaining harder for her to, like, stay focused on what you're talking about.
Well, in that case, I'm just gonna say my goodnights and back up and approach my husband and tell him about
another mention of the beast, honey. Darling.
At the mention of the beast, I will gesture towards the tent and say, "I suggest we get some rest."
Of course.
You know what I mean.
Is it gonna be a bit of butt stuff?
Hey, this is a rated R stream.
And I'll shamble into the tent, grumbling.
Coughing on his own beard.
Any Stragani even remotely near your camp quivered with fear.
And I'll pick a piece of food out of my beard and eat it.
Great.
I think I'm gonna get some air.
But yeah, I just want to rest to recover my wounds.
Okay. It's like, hey, if you wanna do things, that's cool. Just I'll make you roll for it.
Roll perception.
Roll for initiative.
Roll charm, Nicholas. After spitting out that food, I'm kind of like.
I will attempt a charm check on my portly elven wife.
Oh my god.
Yes, ready?
It's gonna be so bad.
Our fellowship is 13. Oh god.
Man, this will be. Roll a willpower check, Anna.
Willpower against me. What is it? I will.
Yeah, just where is it?
So it's up in the characteristics. It's WP. I need to find something real quick anyway. So this will.
Okay. Modifier, I guess. Failure. Oh no.
Oh, you are you're not exactly charmed, but compared to his usual flirting skills, he seems to actually be trying for once, and it's not Casanova by any means, but it's better than he normally does. There's something moderately endearing about the attempt, even though it's not successful.
Right. Well, let's just make sure first that the halfling isn't hiding anywhere near.
I go to sleep.
Yeah, we'll all just crash at this point, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, before I do,
Well, that was quicker than
I'm gonna
usual.
go near the one of the stables. Is there like or in the pen?
You can't have a goddamn horse.
I will, goddamn.
You'll continue to be useless.
Don't you try and fuck a horse in my campaign.
No,
You hear me?
There will be a horse.
Don't you fuck a horse. You hear me?
And I go and look over this guy. I'm like, so, what do you know? What do you know about these horses?
Just go and charm
Are
a
they
horse.
a thoroughbred now? An American quarter, maybe? No.
American?
Useless.
The Strigani, at the sound of your accent gives you a really weird look. He's not one of the ones that was traveling with your group. He clearly stays here to tend to the beast. And he says, well, these lot have been with us for a time. They're good horses for getting their job done. I don't know what they're bred down as. They've just been passed down through our lines for generations now. We breed our own horses. They're not Bretonian destriers or anything, but they get the job done.
Indeed. So they wouldn't be for sale now, would they?
He will give you a pretty flat look and say, he'll look at you kind of up and down and says, for the amount of money that you're probably carrying around, no.
I mean, this is a pretty big job I'm getting paid for after this. Well, if we do get paid, and I kind of look over at the, like, scorningly over that tent, like, bitch. Well, I'll see you afterwards. Perhaps we can strike a deal.
All right.
Then I walk away into my tent.
The fuck are you, a Muppet? All right, the Strigani, as you're walking away, you actually catch a glimpse of him triple checking to make sure the locks are secure or he goes to bed.
Damn him.
Excellent. So do we heal up while we sleep our HP?
So the way sleeping generally works is one second. Okay. Oh, whoops. Oops. Okay, mental note there. I made a slight mistake, but it's okay. I'll know it for the future. Any of you who are fatigued lose the fatigued debuff?
Man, who's all fatigued in our party?
I can't imagine. And then for resting, hold on. I can't remember what page it's on. I know you're going to need to take an endurance check, so go ahead and roll endurance check. Oh, wait. First thing you all have to do, everybody, actually, you know what, let's go ahead and start with the endurance check. Let's go ahead and do endurance checks.
Everyone?
Yep, everyone. If you're wanting to heal, Roll an endurance check.
I need to pee.
Oh, I'm good.
Can I take a
Page
potion?
167. What'd you say?
I was joking.
Oh, okay.
Potion.
Do you have a potion?
You know, I don't think I have a writing kit. Can I eat that?
No. Helps you recover wounds. Chapter 5.
Yeah, you're rolling an endurance check right now to see how well you recover while you're sleeping.
Oh, what if you don't lose any wounds?
Then,
right.
then don't roll it because you're not going to gain anything out of it. I just need to find the fucking stupid page.
What if you're on the boat the entire time?
Endurance.
Then you manage to avoid all of the nastiness of.
I rolled critical success. Does it mean I overheal?
Oh damn! Nice.
you're already full,
that's
so-
a horrible waste of a 1, but great job.
But I was at 9 wounds. I took some blasts while I was saving our useless excuses of a wizard.
Oh, by the way, all of your fortune points are recharged to full, everyone, since it's a new session. Healing, there we go. All right, so without medical attention, okay, so once per day, an in-game day, not like our day, if you sleep during that day, you can make a average endurance check, which means plus 20. And for every success level plus your toughness bonus, you heal a wound. So, for instance,
I didn't add 20.
So I would heal 5 wounds.
yeah. So Turin, you would hold on.
Plus 20.
You would heal. You have 4 success levels plus your toughness bonus.
Yes, I'm full health now.
Okay.
Oh, he has 3 success levels.
Well, it says 3, but you got to do the math. Because 36 plus 30 would be 66, which is over what he is over 61. So he only had 2 success levels.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, this system likes to add 1 when it shouldn't sometimes.
I don't know how to do the math. Can
So for every 10% between what you rolled and what you needed to roll under, every full 10%, you get a success level. So for instance, because you rolled a 1,
I have 4.
right? You rolled a 1, but you needed less than a 42. So if you add 40 to that 1, that's 41, which you rolled equal to or less than that, which is good. So you had 4 success levels, but Turin rolled a 36 when he needed a 61 or lower. If you add 20 to that, you get 56. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. I should stop dyeing my hair blonde.
So I would actually have success level 1 then.
Yeah, so Pone, you get 1 success level plus your toughness bonus.
Do I also get my toughness bonus?
Yeah, so all of you are back to full health except for Pone. Pone won't be back to full, but he'll be better than he was.
So 23, which would mean total I'm healing 3.
Your toughness bonus is 23?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because it's the 10th place, so you'll heal a total of 3 wounds. So just make sure you stay in the back.
And
All right. So now everyone who is sleeping take a cool check with no modifier.
cool.
I'm key.
No, you're not. Or actually, you're our love child. You have to be cool.
Okay, Pone's fine. Oh no!
Yes. Get
Finally,
destroyed.
something happens to that guy.
I die in
No,
my sleep.
no modifiers.
No modifier.
So everyone's taking this, correct?
Everybody has to take it.
Cool as a cucumber. I assure you that the fart you would throw could not.
Okay, all of you who failed, every single one of you who fail, as you're sleeping, you have a terrible nightmare. When morning comes, all 3 of you awaken with a jolt, and you have, the worst thing is you can remember the nightmare. You have, the only things you remember is you remember seeing straw bedding, you remember seeing people running around screaming as great devouring flames were consuming everything around you. You remember giant claws grasping at the sky and trying to bind you using rope and other materials. You have memories of the Chaos Moon waxing huge in the sky and consuming all of the waters around you, being reflected and being the only thing you can see. And you remember your back being pressed against some kind of cold stone slab, and then you remember nothing but darkness and an intense anguish in your heart before awaking.
Can I take an intuition test to determine if that's a prophetic dream?
It's a little too specific. You could take an intuition check to see if it felt like it was just a dream or if there was something more meaningful to it. That would be a more appropriate use of that.
Let's do it then.
Okay.
Success.
Okay, so Susan, it felt very vivid, and it felt very real. There was something disturbing about the raw emotions you felt. You normally don't feel that way, like, ever. It was a very alien and foreign feeling to you.
I seek to share it with my husband if he's to be found anywhere, because obviously he left our bed that we shared. Where is he?
I'm right outside the tent. You gotta move over.
All right, all of you who had the nightmare and remember it have a fatigued condition for the day.
For how long?
For the entire day.
Okay.
Until you sleep again.
Hey, that's not bad for rolling 100, Goji. Like, you could have gotten off. You could have been bleeding from every orifice.
Yeah, no, there could have been a demon, Zinj demon creeping into my brain at night.
You just literally got fucked.
I've split mine now.
He's gonna mind.
Okay. Can we venture out into the camp?
Yep.
To see,
Yep. It's morning. Morning. Everyone's up and running. You will have a little bit to look around if you'd like before anything super important happens. None of the big named characters are out of their tents except for Raiko. You see Raiko like instructing men, like working with them and stuff, but none of the 3 camp bosses have come out yet.
I would like to consult it with my husband if he doesn't think that it would be actually suitable to discuss the dream with the rest of our company, and preferably perhaps warn the people responsible for that camp, because I don't think that's normal, darling.
Being a dwarf and someone who doesn't care to share his emotions or inner thoughts, I will grumble disdainfully. I'll just go talk to Raiko. And I'll head out to camp.
Okay, he nods at you as you're approaching, but doesn't really say anything to you until you address him.
You cut out if you.
Okay, yeah, I'm back, sorry. Yeah, I'll ask Raiko saying, hey laddie, what news you have for the day?
He shrugs and says, I imagine I could guess what work you lot were hired for based on the way Reuter inferred it. I imagine when Thulgrim or Stiegler comes out, they'll have the word for you, though, about exactly what they want you to do. And as they're all walking, you can tell that it's definitely going to be a long day for the unskilled construction crew of this, the water mill, especially, to get this textile mill up and running, because the actual portion of the mill that would be considered the water mill, so it has the wheel and generates energy using that, the Strigani, who clearly are not skilled workers or laborers, accidentally built in a part of the bank that flooded recently. So they are trying to uncover all of their work that has been buried beneath some water, and it looks like it's going to be definitely a very frustrating day for them.
Okay.
So that rude chick from the spinning class is not up and shine and rise yet, yeah?
Yeah, she's not up yet.
Okay. Well.
As all of you start coming out of your tents, though, the dwarf Thulgrim, you do actually see him come out of her wagon, and he closes the door behind him without too much consideration for being quiet, and he stomps down the steps and starts heading towards the five of you.
Halfling, are you seeing that? Do you think that something is happening?
Orlevis, with his first time actually giving a shit, decides to take a look around the camp upon exiting his tent for the first time.
Okay.
Just see what he notices.
Roll a perception check with a -10 due to all the miss and other nastiness.
Do I put like a minus sign?
Yeah, you just put -10, literally.
-10.
Oh, by the way, because Pawn has a second sight, right?
Yeah, he does.
So if you wanted to use it,
Second sight.
to roll?
No,
Roll
second sight just is like, that's just something he sees naturally. He doesn't have to roll for
Like
it
a
though.
passive, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
there might be times where he can roll a perception check in conjunction with his second sight to specifically look for something that may otherwise be hard to detect. And there are other checks that he can do. It's more like it gives him the ability to sense it, but it in of itself is not a roll. All right. But Pone, due to all the mist and fog and the fact that you just woke up, you don't see anything particularly noteworthy.
Okay.
Could we gather the party and approach the dwarf, perhaps?
Yeah, well, he's coming towards y'all, so if you want to gather up, now would be a good time.
I wanted to kick Pawn in the knee, but never mind.
I will blast you with magic.
You can kiss my shiny foresty ass.
I was going to say, that went super well for you last time you tried that, Pone.
I've learned from my failures that rolling doubles will no longer cause me to miscast.
No,
that's not how that works.
Before we face the dwarf.
That's literally what the talent says.
Oh, you have Etheric Attunement. That changes a little bit. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead,
You
Anna.
are angering Susan, and there will be no more cookies.
I would like to approach Pawn, and despite him being such a saddlebag to me before, I'm just gonna approach him and be like,
Listen, you, between us elves, although with your kind it's not always that certain, but eyelashes there. Do you see any threads of magic around here? That fog is really suspicious. And also, I heard rumors of a beast in the swamps. I think we should be alert.
I didn't kick you,
I don't.
and I saved you.
I don't. First off, I don't know that you saved me. All I know is that I was saved by the gods.
Listen, douchebag.
I was unconscious.
I mean, someone feel free to to fill him in. But yes, his character has no idea who saved him.
And by the way, and furthermore, I saved you. I dragged you out of the water, so, you're welcome.
Yeah, but you didn't stop the breathing. Come on.
Also, Pone.
Can I charm Pawn so he finally sees that I'm such a fellow friend of an elf?
If you're trying to manipulate someone, you roll a charm check. If you're just telling them information, then don't.
Well, I mean, I wasn't trying to manipulate Pawn. I would never.
Then don't.
Do I see any magic in this?
So most of the time, for magic, I'll have you roll intuition checks.
Roll it, Gonzo.
You don't see anything just baseline. If you want, you can roll an intuition check to see if there's something deeper there. Nope, that's the skill intuition.
Yeah.
No perception.
Intuition. With no modifier.
No modifier. You detect nothing. Nothing magical.
Glancing down at
Entity.
small elf with the name Susan. He raises one eyebrow, almost not believing her that she was the one who saved her. But he says,
I proceed to kiss my biceps.
Orvis, just nearly states, there is no magic in the mist. However, if what you say is true, it matters not, for I know that the gods would have saved me.
Oh dear.
I just let out a noise and walk away to join my husband in facing the dwarf.
Okay.
I'd like to greet the dwarf in Kazalid and bid him, top of the morning to you, Master Dwarf. What biddings does the wench from the tent bring?
He will nod in acknowledgement of your phrase before looking at the four of you, and he frowns, kind of looking. He says, "Where's the halfling?"
You best be checking your pockets.
That's a good question. The one that we ask ourselves every day, Master Dwarf.
He'll look sort of irritated at you, and he says, "He's your companion. You're not getting work till you find him."
Oh, Master Dwarf, wait a second. I wouldn't go as far as consider him our companion. You know, he's just an addition. You know, he cooks. I
He-
don't.
he-
You know,
He looks.
I know how to pour wine, but I just don't get that whole cooking shebang.
He gives you a flat look, Susan, and he says, "Did he come with you into camp?"
He came behind after us, I suppose.
He came in at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Then he's your problem.
I'll tell the dwarf, say, I'm sure the halfling will be joining us soon. What news do you have for us?
He will nod and look around a little bit before saying, "As you may have guessed from last night, the pair in charge of this place don't see eye to eye exactly. They still can't decide what to pay you for your salvage work you did yesterday. Bloody disgrace, if you ask me. It's as it sounds like all the funds would be sat on the bottom of the river if it were not for you five. Anyway, one thing they will pay you for is honest work agreed to with an honest handshake. Stigler told me to tell you to dig up the old Ogum stones that are littered around the place. They're a right nuisance, and the Stragani refuse to go anywhere near them. They say it's taboo or some nonsense. A superstitious lot they are. If you could dig around the base of those stones and topple them, I reckon they wouldn't mind hauling them away. Get it done and there's a shilling each in it for you apiece, and 7 stones that you need to take down in total. And it's me promising you that money, so you will get it, regardless of what Rooter may or may not already owe you."